Imagine losing a winning lottery ticket and still winning something infinitely greater than money. Sounds absurd? Well, that's exactly what happened. This isn't just another story about luck and bad luck. It's a true story that begins with a banal impulse, an ordinary man, a grocery store line, and a piece of paper thoughtlessly thrown into his pocket. But what no one could have predicted is that this simple gesture would set off a chain of events so moving, so improbable, that it would defy the laws of logic and touch the hearts of an entire nation. Do you believe that a homeless man, upon finding this lost ticket, would have reason to return it? What if I told you that he not only returned it, but triggered a collective transformation capable of changing lives that society had already given up on? In this story, money, success, and fame are not the climax. They are merely the backdrop to something much deeper. A journey of empathy, courage, honesty, and genuine love. Living proof that true wealth is not measured in numbers, but in choices. Choices that define who we are when no one is looking. Stay until the end, because what happens after the ticket is returned is more surprising than any prize. And perhaps when you learn this story, you will discover that there is something in your own life that also deserves to be rescued before it is too late. On a gray evening in New Jersey, with the wind playing among the branches of the trees and people hurrying in line at the supermarket, Henry, an ordinary man with a calm and silent look, did something that many have done without thinking twice. He bought a lottery ticket. It was just one of many automatic, everyday gestures, like adjusting the collar of your coat or checking your cell phone for the 10th time. An impulse, almost banal, motivated more by the fear of a what if than by any real hope. That small piece of paper, folded and put in his pocket with disdain, did not seem to carry any destiny. But as life loves to play tricks on the distracted, there was more than just paper and ink. There was a plot of love, hope, and inspiration waiting to unfold, with all the ingredients that only the most unlikely coincidences can bring together. Henry had no big dreams, nor any excessive ambitions. He was a man of simple habits, the kind who offers kindness with a smile and carries an air of sincere humility. That day, when he extended his hand with some crumpled bills to pay for the ticket, he had no idea he was signing a contract with his own story. In the line behind him, a lady was discussing with her grandson the importance of honesty, and that made him smile, because he had always believed that the power of kindness shapes the world little by little. Buying that ticket was not a plan, it was a trivial gesture. But there are trivial gestures that silently seal destinies. Thus, without knowing it, Henry took the first step on an adventure marked by compassion, resilience, and a flood of events that, so unusual, would seem like a lie if they were not real. The curious thing is how the great moments in life rarely arrive announcing their greatness. They disguise themselves as routines, hide in the solitude of a late afternoon, camouflage themselves among shelves of groceries and hurried lines. Henry's great turning point began like any other day, without fanfare or omens. And perhaps that is precisely where the beauty of existence lies. In the unexpected, in the improbable, in that spark of joy hidden in any gesture. He put the note away in a drawer that he rarely used, without knowing that he had entrusted his fate to a capricious destiny. And little did he know that, by doing so, he had set in motion a sequence of events that would test his courage, provoke his understanding, and teach him about the true value of gratitude. But that was still just the beginning. The night of the drawing arrived like so many others, silent, almost forgotten. Henry, tired after a long day of work as a mechanic shop attendant, turned on the television just to have some background music while he prepared a sandwich. That was when, between one bite and another, he heard the numbers being announced with the solemnity typical of drawings. One by one, the digits echoed in the room, and something inside him stopped. 2.20-7.30 5. His eyes widened. With each number that came up, his heart skipped a beat. It was as if the universe was whispering in his ear, "Pay attention, Henry. This is for you." Suddenly, the sandwich no longer mattered, nor did his hunger, nor did his tiredness. Everything dissolved into a single emotion: excitement. An overwhelming tide of hope and fear mixed with the doubt. Is it possible? In a nervous impulse, he ran to the drawer where he remembered leaving the note. He rummaged through keys, old bills, rubber bands, and receipts. Nothing. He turned over papers, pulled out the entire drawer, looked under the table. The note was gone. A wave of despair took hold of him. That sheet of paper that had previously seemed insignificant now had the weight of a fortune. And along with it came the shadows of fear, insecurity, and loneliness. Henry felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. How could he have been so careless? How had he let something so precious slip away? At that moment, he realized the real value was not in the money itself, but in the possibility, in what it could mean for his life. And this realization, only increased the panic. His hands were shaking. His mind was racing. Henry began to repeat the numbers out loud, as if that would make the note appear by magic. 22730-5. It was as if each repetition was an attempt to grab luck by the collar and make it come back. But the note did not appear. And it was at that moment that, without realizing it, something deeper began to emerge. The realization that it wasn't just about the prize. It was about how much he had let himself be carried away by life's autopilot, neglecting the details. The gestures, the traces of everyday life. The absence of the note was gradually becoming a mirror of his own inner journey. And with that, the search would not only be for a lost piece of paper, it would also be for reconciliation, for understanding himself, for a chance to start over. On that freezing dawn, with the city plunged into silence and the streetlights casting yellow light over the deserted sidewalks, Henry began his desperate search. The apartment became a battlefield. Torn pillows, overturned drawers, piled up shoes. He searched everything from the laundry basket to the toolbox in the basement. Every place that didn't reveal the note was like a door slammed in his face, fueling anguish and remorse. With each failed attempt, a knot formed in his chest, the knot of regret. He then threw himself on the couch, panting, with tears in his eyes, but hope was still screaming inside. He got up and went to the outside area of the building, went down to the garage, and searched every compartment of the car. He found an old sweatshirt in the trunk, but no sign of the note. Then he went down to the building's trash can. Among torn bags, leftover food, and expired packaging, he rummaged through everything with his bare hands. He felt unworthy, but at the same time determined. It was as if a greater force, perhaps faith itself, or perhaps the power of goodness, was driving him to continue, even in the midst of chaos. It was no longer just about money. It was about not giving up on something he had come to believe in with all his heart. And there, kneeling among garbage bags and the acidic smell of waste, Henry had a glimpse of himself that he never imagined he would see. A man torn between failure and resilience, between the fear of losing everything and the confidence that something greater was coming. He understood that, no matter how unlikely it was to find that ticket, the simple fact of fighting for it already made him stronger, more alive, more aware of who he was. It was a lesson in perseverance that life gave him in the darkness of a dawn. And even though the ticket remained missing, something inside him began discreetly to change. The story spread like a storm wind through the streets of Newark. Man loses winning lottery ticket, the local news headline said. And with that, questions arose that divide souls and challenge consciences. What if someone found the ticket? Should the person who found it return it? Would it be an act of justice, of love for others, or an opportunity to change his life. The moral dilemma dropped like a bomb in the heart of the city, sparking discussions in coffee shops, church groups, and social media. Some said, "Finders keepers." Others said, "If I were you, I'd want them back." It was a battle between survival and altruism, between selfishness and compassion. Henry, in turn, was oscillating between hope and fear. At night, he would lie down thinking, "What if someone found it? Will they understand my despair?" The world seemed to be in suspense, as if everyone was waiting for the next chapter of this real-life soap opera. Amidst the emotional chaos, he found himself reflecting on what he would do if he were on the other side. He knew that money would change his life, but he also understood that no amount of money could replace honesty. It was a test of humanity, a collective opportunity to learn the value of forgiveness, integrity, and the courage to do the right thing, even when the right thing costs dearly. In some neighborhoods, stories began to emerge of people who had found lost objects and returned them. Inspired by Henry's drama, a little boy returned a wallet found in the park. A lady delivered an envelope with money to the police station. Commotion spread, and the power of kindness seemed to flourish, shy but present. It was as if that lost note had unleashed a wave of sincerity. And while Henry struggled not to lose faith, the town was slowly learning that sometimes luck lies not in receiving, but in giving back. Little did they know that an unexpected clue was about to rekindle hope and shed light on a detail that everyone had overlooked. The next morning, while sipping a thin coffee from the bottom of the mug he had been using for years, Henry received an unexpected phone call. It was Grace, an employee of the small grocery store on the corner, where he used to buy bread and newspapers on Sundays. Her voice trembled with excitement. "Henry, I think you should come here." Now, intrigued, he put on his coat and left, almost stumbling in his hurry. His heart was beating like a drum. There was something in her voice that mixed hope, surprise, and a trace of compassion that he had not heard in a long time. When he arrived, Grace led him to the back room and pointed to the security monitor. "Look at this." The images did not lie. There he was, Henry, on the day of the drawing, leaving the grocery store in a hurry, with the bags in one hand and the ticket in the other. And then, at the exact moment he turned the corner, the ticket slipped and fell to the ground. A tiny, almost invisible detail. But fate, with its poetic irony, made sure to record it. A few seconds later, someone appeared in the corner of the video. A hunched man with worn clothes and a lost look in his eyes. He approached, bent down, picked up the paper, and after looking around, put it inside his shirt. Henry held his breath. His mind was racing. Who was that man? Why hadn't he returned it? Did he have any idea how much money he had in his pocket? Grace put her hand on Henry's shoulder in a gesture of affection. "We know this man. It's Tony. He lives around here. Collecting recyclables, sleeping behind the church or in the back of the laundromat. He's never bothered anyone. Always polite, always with the Bible under his arm." Henry felt a mixture of relief and tension. A winning ticket in the hands of a man invisible to society. This was more than a coincidence. It was a challenge from the universe, a test of empathy and understanding for everyone involved. And somehow, Henry felt he needed to find Tony, not just for the money, but for something bigger, a reckoning with destiny, a new chance to live kindness in its purest form. And deep down, something told him that the reunion would change everything. That same afternoon, as the cold winds crossed the streets of Newark, Tony, the man in the images, sat in a discreet corner behind the laundry. Wrapped in a worn blanket, he calmly leafed through his old Bible, as he did every day before sunset. Between its pages, a small folded piece of paper stood out. It wasn't a verse, nor a personal note. It was the ticket, that ticket he had No idea of the value printed in numbers, but something inside him told him that this piece of paper had a purpose. "I don't know what it is, but this here is special," he murmured to himself. It was as if faith was whispering a warning. To him, keep this. Protect this. And as unlikely as it seemed, Tony obeyed out of hope, inspiration, or perhaps a deeper, more ancestral instinct. Tony was not just an invisible face among the city's alleys. He was a man with a history, with pains that still hurt and memories that insisted on staying. He had been a nurse, a family man, an avid reader of Jack London, and a lover of Stoic philosophy. But life, with its harshness, had knocked him down with a series of blows that no manual teaches how to endure. Even so, he had not lost his compassion. He shared what he had with others living on the streets, told stories on cold nights, and always said, "It is not what we have in our pockets that defines us, but what we carry in our hearts." When the news of the lost notes spread throughout the city, he had no idea that it was related to his little treasure kept among the scriptures. It was only when he saw his own photo circulating on social media, captured by the supermarket's camera, that the shock came. He stopped, froze, and reread the caption 1,000 times. "This man may have the winning lottery ticket." His eyes filled with tears. Fear and insecurity mixed with honor and duty. There he was, faced with a choice that few face: to give up something that could change their entire lives, or to hide and try to start over, even if it cost him his peace of mind. It was the beginning of a profound dilemma, where conscience weighed more than any number. And in Tony's heart, something began to germinate, the courage to do what was right, even if no one else did. That night, the sky was overcast, as if it too carried the weight of Tony's choice. The city continued its hurried pace, oblivious to the silent storm that was taking place in the heart of a homeless man, but full of principles. Tony walked through the streets with the note in his pocket and his mind in conflict. With each step, he remembered the nights he had slept outside, the looks of contempt, the closed doors, and the times he had to choose between eating or sharing a piece of bread with another brother on the street. Now that piece of paper offered him a way out, or perhaps a final test of character. Would he be able to return something so precious, or should he finally allow himself to be happy? He sought refuge in his sacred place, the back of the church, where, from time to time, he received a hot soup and a little listening. He sat under the porch and with trembling hands unfolded the note for the 1,000th time. What if it had been with Henry? He asked himself, would he have given it back to me? And in that moment, he realized that the right question was not about the other, but about himself. What did he believe? What kind of man did he want to be remembered as? The answer did not come with trumpets, but with the serenity of the wise. He knew what he had to do. Because, even without possessions, Tony still had something valuable: his integrity, his dignity, his ability to love without conditions. And he was not willing to lose that. The next morning, with a light heart and teary eyes, Tony walked to the garage where Henry worked. He arrived timidly, holding the note in both hands like someone carrying a newborn. When Henry saw him, he froze. He recognized him immediately. Tony extended his arm with a shy smile and said, "I think this is yours." A silence full of compassion hung in the air. Henry did not know whether to cry, scream, or hug that man. He did all three almost at the same time. And there, amidst engine oil, rust, and tears, something rare was born: the reconciliation between two worlds that rarely touch. That gesture, simple and gigantic, did not just return a note. It restored faith in humanity. The reunion between Henry and Tony surpassed all expectations. It was as if the universe had stopped for a few minutes to contemplate the scene. There were no cameras, no reporters, no applause. Just two ordinary men, embracing in the middle of a workshop, sharing a truth that money could never buy. The ticket, That piece of paper that carried so many dreams was now the symbol of something much greater: the power of kindness, sincerity in the eyes, unfiltered empathy. Henry sobbed like a child, while Tony just smiled, as if he already knew the value of losing everything and still choosing love. The news spread like wildfire. In less than 24 hours, Henry and Tony were in the newspapers, on the radio, on television. Homeless man returns winning ticket and moves the United States. The entire country was touched by that demonstration of humanity, and that's when the unexpected happened. When asked what he would do with his newly won millions, Henry responded with disarming simplicity: "I'll share it. He taught me what no one else could. That's worth more than any prize." The reporter, stunned, choked up, but Henry was firm. And in that gesture, he was delivering not just money, but recognition, respect, and living proof that hope can indeed win. Tony hesitated. He said he didn't need it, that he just wanted to sleep peacefully. But Henry insisted. "It's not about the money. It's about justice. It's about you believing that you deserve it. It's about me learning to truly be grateful." With teary eyes and a trembling voice, Tony accepted. And together, they decided that they would use part of the prize to create a shelter project for homeless people, a place with clean beds, books, workshops, and above all, understanding. That day, the fortune took on a new form. It became affection. It became altruism. It became a home for those the world forgets. And more than that, it became a symbol that, when two souls meet truth, everything can start over again. But destiny still had one more piece in store for this unlikely game. Life after the prize was not like the fairy tales. Henry and Tony quickly discovered that money solves many things, but not everything. The fortune did bring comfort. They moved into modest houses, bought new clothes, and ensured security. But what really filled their days was the purpose they chose to live. They founded the New Journey Project, a community center to welcome homeless people, offering not only shelter and food, but also courses, psychologists, legal support, and above all, respect. They knew that giving money was not enough. They wanted to offer reconciliation with lost dignity, a new perspective on the humanity that everyone carries. In the center's hallways, it was common to see Henry helping in the kitchen or Tony teaching young people about basic finances based on the mistakes he had made in the past. There, every wall told stories of overcoming, of courage, of perseverance. And that touched people deeply. Children hugged Tony and called him uncle. Henry laughed out loud as he cleaned his glasses and said, "The luckiest thing I've ever had in my life wasn't that note. It was finding someone like him." The center became a beacon of inspiration in Newark. And despite being invited to give lectures all over the country, they preferred to stay close by, cultivating affection with those who needed a second chance. But even with all this new reality, both of them carried scars. Henry struggled with the constant insecurity of losing everything again. Tony, on the other hand, faced sleepless nights, haunted by the fear that his decision had been a mistake. During these moments, they would sit together on the center's porch and talk under the stars. They would talk about forgiveness, about life, about how sometimes the greatest gift is having someone who sees us with truth. And there, without fanfare, they would reaffirm a pact of sincerity and love, because money can change lives, but only human bonds can heal old wounds. And this healing was daily, humble, and real. But fate, capricious as always, still had one more twist in store that no one could have foreseen. Months after the creation of the community center, when the dust of fame had already settled and the routine had become simple again, something unusual happened. A letter from the countryside of Georgia arrived in the mail addressed to Henry. The envelope was old, stained, with shaky handwriting. Inside was a typed sheet of paper and a black and white photo. It belonged to an elderly man named Elijah, who claimed to be the real owner of the ticket. According to him, he had bought 2 tickets at the same grocery store on that fateful day, but by mistake, he had thrown one of them away before leaving. What Tony found, he said, was this second ticket. At first, Henry and Tony thought it was a scam, but something about that letter rang true. They decided to investigate. With the help of lawyers and the state lottery itself, they discovered that Mr. Elijah's version made sense. What's more, he had never wanted the money. "I don't want anything," the letter said. "I just wanted to know that the ticket was used for something good, that it changed lives." Henry and Tony were speechless. How could someone, even when faced with the possibility of getting millions back, choose to simply let it go? The answer was in the letter itself. Sometimes losing is the best way to teach. My life is ending, but knowing that what I lost has become hope for so many is what gives me peace. It was the final lesson of humility, of detachment, of wisdom. The note, after all, was just the beginning of a story about what really matters. Moved. The two traveled to Elijah's city. They found him in a simple house, surrounded by books and plants. They talked for hours. They laughed, they cried, they thanked him. They left an anonymous donation with him for a local orphanage and returned to Newark feeling lighter. That journey, which began with an impulse and a piece of paper, now consolidated itself as a living story of empathy, forgiveness, kindness, and trust in human beings. What had started as luck turned out to be a much greater gift: the certainty that the world still holds beauty, even in the darkest alleys, and that, sometimes, the real lottery is not winning money, it is crossing the right path at the right time, and having the courage to choose love. And now, after all this, I ask you, what would you do if you found a winning ticket that wasn't yours? Would you have the courage to return it? Or would you choose silence, even if it cost you your peace? This story, more than inspiring, is an invitation, a mirror. Because at the end of the day, we all carry our own lost notes, decisions we put off, acts of kindness we didn't do, words of forgiveness we swallowed. What if today were the day to redeem all of that? Maybe your fortune is hidden in a simple act of understanding. Maybe the key to your turnaround lies in the moment you choose empathy, altruism, humanity. Did this story touch your heart? Then, let it touch other lives too. Share it. Comment. Tell me, what was the most memorable moment for you? What was the part of this journey that moved you the most? Write it in the comments. I want to hear from you. Let's make this space a meeting point for those who believe in the power of kindness. And of course, if this story made sense to you, if it inspired you to be a better person, to look at your choices differently, then don't forget, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Because we still have many stories to tell, many paths to travel. And maybe, who knows, the next winning ticket in life is hidden right there, in your next choice.